TOA community, welcome back to the channel. I'm Robert Linkle with trainingtheolderadult.com, and today we're going to talk about the AARP magazine article, the #1 exercise to do as you get older, and see if I agree with this or not. But before we do that, our agreement here between viewer and content creator, I guess you would call me, is that if this is your first video, please enjoy. Welcome to the channel. I hope you like it here. If this is your second video or more, if you would please, as payment for viewing our content, if you could please hit that subscribe button. We really appreciate it. It helps grow the channel. I work really hard on these, spend a lot of time editing, cutting, putting all these together, try to put up at least 1 or 2 videos every week to continue to aid in the fight against sarcopenia. So if you could please hit that subscribe button, maybe you like a video, maybe make a comment, share a little bit, help us grow. We would really appreciate it. All right, team. So let's dive into this. This is Michelle Crouch, AARP magazine. Just 2 weeks ago or so, this one came out, and as you can tell with the photo, the #1 exercise is the squat. They talk a little bit here to start in the beginning about how we are going to lose muscle mass as we age. That's fairly natural, and that is sarcopenia. So that's a word that you are not familiar with. #1, my mission, okay, with this whole channel is to enlighten individuals of what sarcopenia is, the sarcopenic effect on the body, and how to battle it. Sarcopenia is basically severe long-term atrophy. Your musculature starts to shrink because you're not using it, and it has a very negative effect. #1, you can't do what you did before. You can't pick up a weight you used to be able to. Can't stand up or reach overhead as high as you could. You can't move as quick as you can. You can't recover or balance as well as you should, etc. Basically, that is sarcopenia. Then your bones start to fail because the muscles aren't pulling on them. So now you start to get osteoporosis and or osteopenia, early onset osteoporosis. And then because you're not moving around a lot and you have soft bones, you're probably not eating super great. So you start to get overweight and then eventually obese. And that creates the big 3, okay? Osteosarcobesity. That is a big concern, as about 30% of our 50 and overs have all 3 of those. About 60% have at least one, okay? So very big concern here as we age, of making sure that people are enlightened to the idea of what sarcopenia, extreme muscle mass loss, is and how it affects the body. It was officially declared a disease in 2016, which is good news because you can be treated after being diagnosed for this now by your health professionals. So to maintain muscle mass, especially in the lower body, squat is an exercise that will work really well for this. They talk here about ideally you should work out all major muscle groups, your upper and lower body, at least twice a week. I agree. I prefer 3, but for beginners, when you first start off, twice a week is fantastic. 48 hours in between training sessions, maybe even 72, and then start walking on those days in between. That would be excellent, okay? From there, they dive into here with Eric Daw, a personal trainer out of OmniFit in Toronto, Canada, says the squat is the most important exercise for seniors. Do I agree or disagree with you, Eric? I disagree, but I think you're extremely close. Okay, I won't jump the shark here. We'll talk about it in just a second, but you're really, really close. Okay. When you have to go to the washroom, that's a squat. When you have to get into a car, that's a squat. Every time you sit down and stand up, that's a squat. If you don't do them well, it affects the way that you live. So let me clarify on this. When you go to the washroom, when you get in and out of a car, anytime you sit down and stand up, that's not a squat. It's a sit to stand. And this is a very big difference, okay? I know some are like, oh, it's a squat. It's not. There's a big difference, okay? You have something called kinetic potential energy, which is also known as the slingshot effect, okay? When you take a rubber band and you pull back on it and you let go, what happens? The band slingshots, fires forward, creates potential kinetic energy. I've created momentum through the elasticity. The elasticity slings whatever I'm hurling, a rubber band shooting or a slingshot shooting a pebble or something like that, creates momentum and it propels the object forward. So basically your quads as the primary mover in the squat, when you start standing and you squat down, your quadriceps get this eccentric stretch, this kinetic potential energy, and it stretches around your knee, and it prep, and then you stand back up and it slings you back up. And so your quads are acting as the rubber band, okay? But when I sit down to go to the bathroom, when I sit down into a car, I don't get that kinetic potential energy. I sit down and I turn those muscles off, okay? The stretch, and then I go, ooh, and I bring the 2 points together. Well, there goes all that potential kinetic energy. That energy, that slingshot effect is what was helping me get back up, okay? So now I take away the slingshot. What do I have to do? I need pure strength. I need deep range of motion because I'm sitting in a chair, sitting on a toilet, sitting deep into bucket seats of a low car, right? I need pure, full range of motion strength that can engage with no potential kinetic energy, with no slingshot effect, and just power me up out of that squat position. So that's where I feel like the most efficient and most successful lift for the aging body to do is a sit to stand, because that's what we're actually doing in all of these real life situations. You don't get the opportunity to just stretch and go and slingshot yourself back. This is a stronger position. You can move and be a little bit more efficient with your foot stance, with your body positioning, knowing that you don't need to ride the momentum. You can just simply set up proper and then drive yourself out of the bottom position. So I would say, yeah, I mean, it's a squat, but to be a little bit more specific, it's a sit to stand. And that's where you're really going to see people make a big difference. So not really splitting hairs. They are two different things, but they're pretty damn close. They're right there in the same group. Okay. All right. Let's see. As we continue here, train all the muscle groups in the legs, the calves, the quadriceps, hamstrings, the glutes. All those are addressed in there. Even some core strength. So yeah, but mostly quadricep with a sit to stand or squat. And you're getting some help with the glutes depending on how deep you go. Antagonist with your hamstrings and your calves, core work to hold you in a good position, etc. All very good, okay? All right, so now we get into Denise Austin. Now, I like Denise Austin. I love what she's done for the industry and what she does for people and educating them and leading them through workouts. I think it's great. However, words matter, okay? Words matter. So when we get into instructions on here, when she talks about some of these positions, it's not exactly correct. So we'll talk about those here in just a second. Squats are one of the best overall exercises, she says. The strength of the major muscle groups of the lower body, etc. Two joints that you're specifically focusing on, the knee and the hip. Very good. Your hip being a ball and socket, your knee being more of a hinge joint. Mechanical positions are going to matter in designing how we do our sit to stands or our squats here to make sure we're doing well. Now, they talk about two studies here. Number one, the research study between muscle mass and maintaining muscle mass and longevity. One study followed older adults that were 70 and older for 6 years and found that those that had greater quadricep strength had a lower risk of early death, okay? And another study revealed that your ability to sit all the way down on the floor and get back up without using your hands could be a predictor for mortality, meaning that you're more mobile, more capable, able, strong, all of this. It's one of those tests where if you can just hold your hands up next to your shoulders, get all the way down on the ground, get yourself back up, it shows that you have some strength, flexibility, mobility. The things that you're doing in your daily routine are keeping you in very good shape. Same as doing a grip strength test, which if that's something that you do, number 1, pounds of pressure, okay? You're looking at 27 kilos, which is about 60 pounds, somewhere right around in there for men. And you're looking at 16 kilos, which is right around 35 pounds for women. Those are the bare minimums, okay, for your grip strength to where you're out of the range of concern. So if you have a dynamometer, you have an opportunity to play with one, practice on there. Men greater than 60, women greater than 35. That's what you want with each hand individually, okay? All right, so if you're over that, you're good. Same idea as get down and up off the floor. You can do that without using your hands. That typically means that you're good. You're doing good things. Now, I love the idea that if you have greater quad strength, that can mean a less risk of dying early. This is just purely on the science and the research of those that have more muscle mass that are less sarcopenic. They have less opportunity for the linchpin, if you will, When you have less muscle mass and you're weaker, you're more susceptible to any and all diseases, risks, injuries, all of it. So the more muscle mass we're able to gain and then maintain as we age, the better opportunity you'll have to live longer. So true potential longevity with greater muscle mass. So you don't need to be big and bulky like Arnold. You just need to have that muscle mass and try to maintain it. All right, here we go. Getting into position. Okay, ideally, they talk about feet shoulder width apart. So a really interesting thing that I saw, Dr. John Russin does a certified pain performance specialist course, and I got to sit in on this maybe a year or two. Well, it was before the pandemic, so like 3 years ago. And very cool slide that he shows in there. They're cadaver pictures, so like actual body parts of femoral heads. Okay, so the head of your leg, the big bone in your leg, the top part of your leg is called your femur, and in there you have a femoral head. The head of it is like a big ball, even though it's not round. It looks more like a fist. Okay, it's got all these bumps and grooves in it, and that sits into the acetabular socket that is in your pelvis. Okay, and that creates the ball and socket joint. So there are pictures of these femoral heads, and there's 8 of them, and every single one of them looks different. And so the question is how many bodies did those 8 pictures come from? And so you look at them all and you're like, well, they all look different. None of them match. So my answer was 8. I think those are 8 different bodies, right? 8 different ball and sockets from 8 different bodies. And the answer is 4. So what that means is in the same body, one hip socket looks different, very different in some cases from the other. And my point, the reason for telling you this is if we tell everybody your feet should be shoulder width apart when you squat, is that accurate? It's not. But now we're forcing everybody into a position that we feel is like, this is the standard position. So now, even if your hips don't match each other, let alone match other people, why are we forcing everybody into this stance when we know it's not ideal even for the one hip of the same person to the other hip? So my point is instead of saying stand shoulder width apart, stand in a position where your hips feel most comfortable when you squat down as deep as you can and stand up. There's no pain, there's no impingement, you don't feel unstable, you don't feel like you're going to fall over, like you feel, okay, this is good. And in some cases, okay, that might be with my right foot turned out at 15 degrees and my left foot turned out at 30 degrees. Now, is that a position you want to train in all the time? I mean, that's your body. And if that's how your body works, then yes, that's how you want to train. Okay. Now, some people would say, well, this is going to create asymmetries. You're already asymmetric. Like you already don't, your hips, we can't change your structure, right? So they're already unequal, trained with what works best for you. If you're over age 50, for sure, you definitely want to do that. Maybe if you're younger and we have some more time to try to kind of manipulate some of the musculature that plays on the joint. But I think whatever's comfortable for you, I would really say for all ages, to be honest. Whatever works for you, whatever feels best for you, go with that. Now, a general rule of thumb, okay, is your feet are shoulder width apart, 2 inches on each foot, out, and then turn your toes out about 15 degrees. That's a starting point to go, does this feel good or not? And then you can go even further. So to give you mine, okay, my feet shoulder width apart, I go out 4 inches and then turn my toes out about 40 degrees, okay, 40, 45 degrees. That for me is where I feel most comfortable, okay, which you would call knees in more of a wide stance or sumo stance knee position, but my feet in a little bit more of a traditional, closer to my shoulder width stance. But again, that's my design, fake hips, bad back, etc. Okay, everybody's different here. So I know for the sake of this article, they're like, hey, let's just start here. I'm just going into a little more detail on it, okay? All right, so she also dives into foot position, how much contact, and they start talking to this other gal, Lori Michiel, something like that. Looking at the foot position, you want to be like center foot pressure, a little bit more heel dominant, a little bit lighter toes. Yes, we say lighter toes. That doesn't mean you need to literally lift your toes off the ground. It just means be lighter, okay? Now, one other thing here is keeping your back straight, keeping your chest up, and keeping your heels planted, sitting back like you're in a chair. Very misleading the way that is verbalized, okay? So go with me here, all right? Here's my back. My back is straight, my sternum, my torso, my back is straight, okay? And my chest is straight, right? But if I hinge at 45 degrees, I am no longer vertical, but I'm still straight. Does everybody see that? So here's straight and vertical, okay? Here's no longer straight, or excuse me, here's no longer vertical, but still straight. The key to a good squat or sit to stand is not rounding over, it's hinging into the proper position. So we don't really want to tell people to keep your back vertical or to stay straight up. You want them to keep a neutral posture in their torso while they're hinging, okay? So I guess it is the right word. Stay straight, but don't stay vertical, okay, is the position we want. Now, the chest up can be a little misleading too. I think of it as if you're on camera, okay, and you had a logo on your center sternum. The whole time you're squatting, I should see that logo. Doesn't mean that you can't hinge, right? It just means that I need to see it. So here's my stance, right? As I'm going to squat, I'm going to push my hips back, lower down into my chair, but you can still see my logo, okay? So every time I squat, I can push my hips back, I can push my hips back, I can sit back into that good squat position, but I'm not worried about staying vertical. Now, when you sit into a chair, okay, you have your shins and your thighs and your torso, you are very vertical then, right? So that's, again, a little bit misleading. You want to reach back like someone's pulling the chair away from you and you're like, wait, I got to get my butt on this thing. That's the hip displacement of a good squat, eventually leading to a sit to stand. Okay, so again, not bad instruction, just a little more detail is what we're looking at. Make sure your knees don't extend over your toes. Okay, this is an old school this is one of those, what's the right word that I'm looking for? Like one of those things that has haunted our industry forever is that the second your knees go beyond your toes, your knees are going to blow apart. However, when we squat down to play baseball and you're the catcher, when you squat down to tie your shoes or pick up something off the ground and your knee happens to go beyond your toe and it doesn't explode, what the hell? What happened? It only explodes when we're exercising, but not when we're doing regular life. My point is your knees can go beyond your toes and they're not going to get damaged. However, if you're holding a bunch of weight and you're standing on your toes and you're sissy squatting, that's a real exercise, okay? Sissy squats where you stay on your toes and your knees protrude out. That is a rehab exercise designed to help rebuild ACLs that have been constructed back. That is not a regular exercise that's very good or healthy for you because you have not trained into that. I don't even demo them because even demoing one hurts my knees like crazy, okay? And I have pretty healthy knees, knock on wood, right? So that position, it's not dangerous to let your knees drift a little beyond your toes. It's actually pretty healthy for you because you are going to do that in life. But is that a position you want to squat in all the time? Probably not ideal, right? Probably not ideal. You want to try to stay as neutral position as you can. But if there's a little drift in there, if they're shifting around a little bit, it's not the end all be all. You're going to be fine. Now, range of motion, because we are doing that movement in life, the knees will drift beyond the toes at some point. Not a bad idea, like during your warm-ups, during body weight squats, to start to build in some of those things and maybe eventually use those pieces as something to build up to strengthen your knees to that point. But if you just hop onto a elevated plywood heel ramp and start doing sissy squats, you do a set of 5, your knees are going to blow up. Okay, if you've never done those before, they're really, really difficult. Just another, I know I've been going here for a little bit, but another side note on this is the squat. I've been watching these new devices that are being made in the gyms where your calves and your shins are locked into a device and then you're sitting back into the sissy squat position and people's knees are blowing apart. I don't know what that piece of equipment is called, but I've been sent more videos than I want to see of people's, they're basically their patellas coming apart because this is such an exposed position that people don't know anything about. And they're just like, I'm going to hop on here and do 2 sets of 15 real quick. It's like one of the hardest things on your knees you could possibly do, even with just your body weight, okay? Just the videos that are stuck in my mind because of this. People holding 2 45-pound plates and they sit back and their knee blows apart and they're buckled, but now they're stuck in this machine. It's awful. It's awful. Anyhow, lighten the toes up, sit yourself back, get that good work in there. But again, if it drifts, everything's okay. Repeat 2 sets of 8 to 10. That's fine. 8 to 15 is kind of our home base for range of motions. Okay. If you want to work a little more muscular endurance, 15 up to 20s, maybe even 25s would be good. But if you're going to start adding load, which is a little bit better for us, okay, you could do 2 sets of 10 for a week or two and then start to add some weights. Hold on to something while you're doing your sit to stands and or squats, whichever you choose. I think the sit to stand is better for you. It's going to create a deeper range and more strength and pure power for you to be able to drive out of the bottom, not use your elasticity to your benefit, okay? But a key note there is, yeah, make sure you're not hunching over, rounding over, okay, a couple times a week. Get your arms into it. Our cue here is if we're going down, the arms should go down. If you're coming up, the arms should come up. So you kind of use the arms as some momentum to help you drive out of that squat position. So I like that. And then for a greater challenge, add resistance. Absolutely. You can do bands, you could do a dumbbell or a kettlebell or anything you want to hold on. I have a client who uses his tool bag, literally holds his tool bag while he does his squats, even swings it when we're in our training. Okay, so that totally fine, is very doable. That is a very, very detailed 20-minute review of this article. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got some good things out of it. If you have any comments or questions, hit me up down below there. And if not, I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Again, please subscribe, please share, help us grow the channel. We really do appreciate all of you. Actually, I love and appreciate all of you. Our world needs more love and appreciation put out into it. So my part of my dharma, my mission, my purpose in life is to educate, but also to spread the love and spread good energy to all of you. So I love you. I appreciate you. Thank you again for being here. Please continue to fight the good fight against sarcopenia, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.